The word Islam, and folk, this is something I did not mention earlier. It simply means submission. In other words, obey the person in authority over you. Never disagree. Obey your older brother even. Sisters must obey their brothers. All children must obey their dads. And never ever disagree with a person in authority over you. Believe me, I'm going to be having a lot to say about that as I go through the lecture. Now, any Islamic person will tell you that they have allowed Jewish and Christian communities to exist within their borders. All this is very, very true. However, there are some restrictions. Christians and Jews are allowed to convert to Islam, but Islamic persons who convert to anything else run a risk of being executed. Folk, any Islamic person you meet will tell you that this is no longer true. You can make up your mind for yourself. I've heard it still is true. Again, it varies from one time to another, from one place to another. Now, there are restrictions on Christians and Jews. Christians have to pay a special tax called a jizya. Now, you notice I wrote this in cursive, and the reason for that is it's a foreign word. It's not an English word. Jizya. It's a tax. It's that Muslims don't have to pay. The tax is designed to help keep Christians poorer than Muslims. Christian houses are to be taller than, Muslim houses are supposed to be taller than Christian and Jewish houses. And in some places, Christians and Jews are not allowed to ride on the back of a beast because that could put them higher up than Muslims. Only Muslims can ride a beast. And in some places, Christians and Jews are not allowed to wear hats because the hat might make them taller than a Muslim or taller than they otherwise would be. So only Muslims are allowed to wear hats. This was true in Turkey until after World War I. In other words, there are restrictions placed on Christians and Jews that are not placed on Muslims. The idea is to keep the Muslims, make the Muslims first-class citizens and the others second-class. Now, I want to state too, now Christians got along pretty well in Muslim countries, particularly Egypt, until recently. And then recently Islam started turning on them and making havoc. Christians have a hard time getting a building permit to repair their churches. Even if they can't get a building permit in a lot of cases to even build churches. And they basically have no rights in court. They can expect a Muslim to always win a court case, so on and so forth. Now, if that sounds a bit harsh, check it out for yourself. This is what I have heard and what I have read. A lot of this has come under fire, but if you look it up, and I have the article here on my computer, there is a Christian woman who is under a death sentence in Pakistan for drinking out of the same well that Muslims drink out of. Supposedly she polluted the holy Muslim water, and this is not something that went on 100 years ago. This is something that's going on right now. The Pakistani highest court, it's gotten worldwide attention, even though we don't hear about it much. The Pakistani highest court has put off the decision until later, maybe hoping that somehow something will break. All right. Their religion has no provision for forgiveness. Now, I had a Muslim man dispute that. If you want to dispute, go ahead. But they don't know if they are forgiven or not. They don't know if they are going to have a happy afterlife or not. The only way they can be assured of a happy afterlife is to die in a jihad, or holy war. And then they have waiting for them, the men have 72 virgins waiting for them. Now, I have heard, folks, that Mohammed did not believe that women went to paradise, that only the men did. And the 72 virgins were virtual virgins, not persons who had lived on earth, but they were virtual women who had been created just specially for the persons who made it, for the men who made it to paradise. I heard a story one time that there was this American visited Islam, and the Islamic person visited Islam. The Islamic person told him, stay away from that man. He's a camel thief. He's not one, he comes from a long line of camel thieves. But when the American kept prodding, what made him a camel thief? Oh, one of his ancestors had stolen a camel 800 years before. This is supposed to have actually happened, so that went all the way down through the 800 years. All of his descendants were camel thieves. All right. No forgiveness. Now, they're women. Their women are expected to be completely subservient. Now, folk, I have heard that recently this has been changed, but Saudi Arabia, which was the center of the birthplace of Islam, did not used to allow women to even drive a car. Women could not even leave the outside of the house without taking a man with them, either their father or a brother. They were not allowed to go alone, even with other women. There had to be a man along wherever they went. I've heard now that this has changed somewhat. Now, women in some Muslim countries are expected to be completely covered up, even their faces. Extreme modesty. And it's gotten so that when they went to Europe, and when some of them moved into Europe, they wouldn't even uncover their face to have their picture made for a driver's license, because in Europe, most of the women are allowed to drive cars. But European courts have consistently ruled that, hey, you have to uncover your face at least long enough to have your picture made for a driver's license, because it's just what we do here, and you have to at least uncover your face. But women, a lot of them wear veils. Now, here is the catch-22 about women, and this is something that terrifies Islamic men. Religion is passed from one generation to the next, usually by the mother, woman. If Islam loses its women, their whole faith will be lost. This is true, by the way, of just about any religion, whether it be Christianity, Judaism. It's the women. And what they're afraid of, and this has happened to other religions in time past, is as they move into Western countries, their women will adopt Western ways. The women will start getting jobs, buying their own cars, divorcing their husbands, and going their own way. And this terrifies Islamic men. Now, I can name for you a man at Lockheed, who Lockheed hired from Pakistan. This way Lockheed gets business from Pakistan, so Lockheed will tell the Pakistan, hey, we've got so many of your people working for us. This man was a younger son of a Pakistani nobleman, came to the United States with his wife, lived for a few years, and after a while his wife divorced him. Couldn't have happened back in Pakistan, you understand, but it did here. His wife divorced him. He went back to Pakistan and found a new wife. But anyway, they are terrified, though, that they will lose their women, owing to the women will start liking Western ways and adopt Western ways, adopt Western dress styles, and adopt Western attitudes. This terrifies them. All right. Now, Sharia law. I should have written that in a cursive, but it's a foreign word. You'll hear about Sharia law. It calls for, among other things, the execution of homosexuals, the execution by stoning of adulterers, the execution of apostates and most dissenters. Now, what's an apostate? An apostate is anyone who converts to any other religion other than Islam. And calls for the execution of these type of people. A dissenter is a person who disagrees with the religious authority over him. Again, punishable by death. Dissent. Now, in the case of adulterers, most of the persons who have been executed for adultery among Islam are women. Sharia law allows a man to have, Sharia law, put it this way, Islamic law allows a man to have 4 husbands.
4 wives.
4 wives. It probably allows a man. Thank you. It allows a man to have 4 wives, and a woman can only have 1 husband. And again, they have stoned women who commit adultery. Even though in the recent years, this practice has become very difficult because they have to try to get along with the Western world. When the Western world finds out that there's a woman up for execution for some crime that would not be a crime in the Western world, Westerners will come in and protest and threaten them with sanctions, economic sanctions, and this has made these countries line up more than it. And there's an interesting case going on right now where it looks like someone in Saudi Arabia committed a murder of a man who at least had a home in the United States. I can't comment on that too much because I don't know what's going to happen there, folk. But anyway, they have also had laws on the book that would cut off the hand of a person who stole. Now, Muammar Gaddafi had that law on his law books, that he would cut off the hand of anyone who stole. He never cut off a hand. Nobody ever stole. I'm not in any way advocating that. In fact, I think this is one of the things, as much as I'm against stealing, this is one of the things that have kept the Islamic world in a state of stagnation for a long time. Everybody is afraid to move. Everybody's afraid to speak up. So, now, twelfth Imam, this is not in the book. Okay, now, after Muhammad died, and after his uncle died, part of them were ruled for a while by imams. And if you look at the history of the imams, every one of the first 11 of them died either by being poisoned by their wives or by being executed by the caliph at the time. So you went through 11 imams pretty rapidly, but each one of these imams added something to Islamic practice. They added a certain holiday or added some ritual or something that they perform. Now comes Imam number 12. Imam number 12, there have even persons who even question whether he existed. And apparently he was only a child, disappeared. Islam believes he's going to come back, and they have to get ready for him. Now, he will only come back when the world is made perfect and all of mankind is at peace and the whole world's under Islam. Then he'll return. He won't bring peace because that's already brought. But they believe, Islam believes, by their own methods, they're going to bring about peace, and eventually when they do, the 12th Imam will come back. All right. Yes?
Is the Imam a god or something?
They were human, but they were high up in Islam. In fact, they were the top of their hierarchy in Islam, the number 1 person, even though they always, most of them clashed with the caliph. In other words, there's the whole idea of who's in charge here, me as a religious figure, you as the political figure. This is something you're going to find went on in European history for hundreds of years. The Pope said he was in charge, and a lot of popes were. The emperor said he was. And they clashed, and it was over with. The Pope remained, the church remains the church, and the state remains the state, and they became separate, independent of each other. But in the case of these, they still clash. There's clergy and the, but even there's no imam anymore, pardon me, there's no imam. But the clergy and the secular rulers still clash. All right. A big problem with Islam, they cannot reform. Why is that important? Now, all right. I spent 27 years at Lockheed, and one time I got to talking to a man from that part of the world, and he said, now where I come from, we never had a reformation. I felt like saying, no, but you needed one. But I couldn't.